This has been... Listen, everybody has been talking about what this experience has been. I just have to say that as I've been listening and feeling the energy that's coming from so many leaders who are doing such extraordinary work in our community and communities around the country, there is such a palpable energy, and it creates such a powerful sense of optimism and belief in where we're going. And so thank you all for all the energy that you've been bringing for the last 36 hours. It's been incredible. So we've worked hard not to embarrass Penny and Bill too much over these last 36 hours. And I promise we're not going to do too much. But we want to... Before dinner starts, we thought we would spend about, 10 minutes or so and tell the story of the George Family Foundation. Some people have been a part of the George Family Foundation family for 3 decades. Some are brand new grantees. So give a little bit of an overview. But it's hard to think about. How do you tell that story? How do you tell such an important story in under 10 minutes so I don't spend too much time embarrassing Penny and Bill? And so I started thinking about it, and then as we were looking up all sorts of things that were happening 30 years ago in 1994, it turns out, very coincidentally, that 1994 was the first documented instance of a phrase, when a phrase was coined, called a driveway moment. So I don't know if you guys know driveway moments. It's when you're listening to a public radio piece and it's so compelling and so engaging that when you get home, you can't get out of your driveway. You just sit there. You have to wait for the story to end. And so I couldn't think of a better way to tell the George Family Foundation story than to all share a little driveway moment for a few minutes.
It's not morning edition, but I am Cathy Wurzer with NPR News. Good evening. Our top story tonight, the Minneapolis-based George Family Foundation is marking its 30th anniversary. Since 1993, the George Family Foundation has made grants to nearly 600 different nonprofits working to make the world a better place. Penny and George have a reputation for shining a spotlight on the foundation's grantee partners and not on themselves. So information about their cumulative giving over the years has never been shared or published. Until tonight. As the foundation marks this milestone anniversary, I'm able to report for the first time on the scale of their generosity. Through the foundation and an additional personal giving, over the last 3 decades, Bill and Penny George have given away more than $250 million. To date, Penny and Bill George have already given away more than 60% of their personal wealth, and that percentage does not yet include their plans for significant additional giving in the years ahead. One of the foundation's directors, Dr. Jonathan George, said this after hearing the news.
That's even possible. $250 million in gifting? That's crazy.
Yes. It happened. And no, it isn't crazy. While the George Family Foundation is not a large organization, it has tremendous impact. We begin our team coverage tonight with this report from former WCCO TV news anchor Don Shelby.
The George Family Foundation started in 1994, but its roots go much deeper. Here's Penny George.
I grew up in a small town where, in Maryland, my dad was a general surgeon, and he didn't make a lot of money. I remember going with him on horseback to visit indigent patients, and they were welfare patients, if you will, who had end-stage heart failure. And he'd just go by to just make sure they were all right. Those things make a real impression on you.
Bill grew up in Michigan with a mother who was very active in the community and a father who had always wanted to run a major corporation but never fulfilled his dreams of leadership.
Ever since I was a very little boy, I've wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to leave a legacy. I want to do something that really makes a difference. And I want to work with people who are making a difference.
Indeed, Bill George, with his value-centered brand of leadership, made a significant difference in the fortunes of Twin Cities-based Medtronic in his time as its CEO. The spark for the George Family Foundation came during Bill's tenure as CEO.
When Bill came home from work one day, I'll never forget, I was sitting on the front porch here, and he said, when Wallen and Maxine started a family foundation, I looked up and I said, we should do that.
Bill and Penny figured they'd need to tell their sons Jeff and John about the idea, but the situation became a little sidetracked by a Star Tribune article on CEO pay, which the boys had read. Jeff George remembers it this way.
I think we were a little bit upset because they kind of fibbed and told us, oh, we make X amount of money, and it was a whole lot lower than what was in the paper. And my parents never lied. We caught them red-handed in a fib, right? And we told my parents, we hope you don't die for many, many decades, but when you die, we don't want your money. Because John and I had an aspiration to make our way in life. You know, my dad, who was red in the face around having been caught in this fib, apologized and had a quip something along the lines of, you know, don't worry, you're not getting any. And proceeded to tell us about plans to start a foundation to give away the wealth to people who really needed it.
Here's Penny and Bill's other son, John.
Penny and Bill had this idea, and they both agreed that you can't take any money with you when you die. And really, Minneapolis has been a huge part of this. Their focus originally was only on Minneapolis, and then the other projects that they give to that are more national. But yeah, I think it was their own personal moonshot to really go after something fun and big and be engaged in it.
The first grants were awarded to groups that focused on health and well-being, leadership, and community building, the original pillars of giving in the organization's mission. I'm Don Shelby. Back to you, Cathy.
Thank you, Don. The George Family Foundation has worked with its grantee partners over the years to foster wholeness of mind, body, spirit, and community by developing authentic leaders and supporting transformative programs that serve the common good. Our team coverage continues with this from Carol Evans' Janice Shortle.
Penny George has been quoted as saying, if we're giving to something, you can be sure that it's not just financially viable, but something that's a force for good in our world. The George Family Foundation is unique in that it fosters a spiritual reciprocity between itself and its collaborative grantee organizations. Sean Malone, president of the George Family Foundation, explains.
It is something that is, at its best, a two-way conversation and an opportunity to say, how does philanthropy and the nonprofit organization work hand in hand to both understand and address the real challenges that we have in our communities and throughout our country and beyond, and the real opportunities to make an impact, to make life better on the individual level, on the community level, and on a societal level. And it is powerful. And I believe that all of the extraordinary work that has been accomplished over the past 30 years comes out of that belief that it is reciprocity, not hierarchy. That the foundation is joining an ecosystem and looking for people who have shared aspirations and shared values to all come together and try to make a difference.
The foundation has 6 interrelated focus areas. Don Shelby alluded to all 3 of them: whole person health and well-being, authentic leadership, and community. Over the years, those have been joined by funding for youth development, the environment, and spirituality and inner life. Sean Malone was asked whether he thought the foundation's mission might change in the years ahead.
I think that the mission itself is clearly enduring. right? This idea of wholeness of mind, body, spirit, and community, that mission has been unchanged for decades, and there's no reason to change it. I think that how you get there may evolve 25 years from now, 30 years from now. The world is going to be different, and how you accomplish wholeness of mind, body, spirit, and community is going to be different than it is today, just like it's different than it was 30 years ago. But that's why I think the center of everything the foundation does is about the mission.
The question is, what's next for the George Family Foundation? For more on that, I'll throw it back to my friend, Cathy Wurzer.
Janet, thank you so much. The foundation's mission was inspired by Penny's vision for whole person health following her recovery from cancer and Bill's vision for leaders of the future. In a recent publication, both said it gives them great joy to see these approaches, considered radical at one time, now becoming the norm. And that's inspiring to them to see major societal trends moving in parallel with their vision.
We had a woman who was an old friend of ours who was a philanthropic advisor, and she was sitting on our front porch with us one summer day and was saying, if you could do anything and be successful, because we weren't thinking of ourselves as philanthropists by any means, what would you do? And I just said I would change how healthcare is delivered. And of course, not realizing how naive it is to think that way, I knew it had to be done, and I knew there were a lot of people thinking by then the way I did. And Bill, how would you answer that?
Well, for the last 25 years, we've seen healthcare costs rise inexorably, and sadly, the health population is going down. And I think we need to look at the whole person, not just look at them as a body part, but mind, body, and spirit. And if we can do that and help people develop ways for self-care, I believe very fervently that we can really transform health for everyone.
The evolution and impact of the foundation was celebrated earlier today in a convening of the organization's grantee partners from throughout the country. We learned that in the health field, there's now clear recognition of the importance of seeing people as connected in mind, body, spirit, and community. Healthcare systems are increasingly embracing the importance of whole person care models, and trusted community organizations are stepping boldly into meeting the nation's need for greater health and well-being. In the field of leadership, organizational leaders in all sectors are recognizing that wholeness of mind, body, spirit, and community is fundamental. Authentic leadership has become the clear and primary approach for developing current and future leaders in nonprofits, business, healthcare, the military, and government. Of course, there continues to be countless challenges and unmet needs in the communities the foundation serves. Gail Ober served as George Family Foundation president from 2009 until her retirement in 2021.
I would offer this wish for Penny and Bill and the family, that the foundation will continue to make a difference in the world, that the next generation, Jeff and John and Renee and Jeanette, will serve together just as Penny and Bill have. And when the time is right, they will bring the grandchildren on who have great potential. And in, 60 years, long after I'm gone, they will still be doing good things in the world.
There is a quote from poet Khalil Gibran that fits this story very well. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. We talked with Jeff George about the joy he's received from helping his parents fulfill the mission of the Family Foundation.
There's joy for me in the second half of their life, being a partner to them in helping them realize their vision for the foundation. And there's joy in that reciprocity because they've clearly given John and me a whole lot. And, it's just a chance to help give back, not only to the communities and people that we serve through our grantees and the work that we do, but to get back to them.
It's not just people who know Penny and Bill personally who have such appreciation for what the foundation has accomplished. So many people in so many communities. Wait. We have some breaking news. We've just learned Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has announced that today, June 14, is now officially George Family Foundation Appreciation Day. With more on this proclamation, we're going to throw it to our team at the Guthrie Theater.
Under the Great Seal of the State of Minnesota, a proclamation, whereas Penny and Bill George created the George Family Foundation 30 years ago, and
whereas the foundation has the mission to foster wholeness in mind, body, spirit, and community by developing authentic leaders and supporting transformative programs serving the common good. And
whereas the George family believes in spreading kindness and in honoring cycles of generosity and appreciation as we all strive to work collaboratively to make the world a better place. And
whereas the George Family Foundation has had a profound and positive effect, empowering people throughout Minnesota to thrive and prosper. And
whereas these first 3 decades are just the beginning, and the George Family Foundation is committed to serving our communities for generations to come.
Now, therefore, I, Tim Walz, Governor of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Friday, June 14, 2024, the George Family Foundation Appreciation Day.
Well, truly, that is good news. I often don't get to report good news, but it is truly good news. And my personal thanks to Penny and Bill and Jeff and John and the whole family for uplifting so many people, for uplifting me, and from my staff and my board members from the End in Mind Project, thank you so much. That's all the news I have for tonight. Good night.
All right. So I have a couple things to hand to them, and then they might say a few words. First, here is the actual proclamation from the governor. But I'll tell you what. The governor isn't the only person who had something to proclaim. And so your friends here in the room had a few thoughts they wanted to share with you that you can take home and have anytime you want.
My mouth is so dry, I don't even know what Next to my wedding day and the birth of my children, this is maybe the most important day that I think I've experienced. And there was a time long before I got cancer when I was working. Thanks, Jeff. I was working as a consulting psychologist, and Bill was working as the CEO of Medtronic, and I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a time when Bill and I could do something together instead of his supporting me in my work and my supporting him in his work, where we could actually do something together. And I think when the idea of the foundation thing came up, I think maybe that was also behind my thinking, is maybe we could do something and make a difference together. And I think one of the things that's clear from the panels today is these things really are happening, and we're not doing it. And that's the part about spiritual reciprocity, is the people doing this work of social change couldn't do it without support, and we certainly couldn't do it just by throwing money at something that isn't ready to happen. And so by bringing all of you guys together, to the hard work you're doing, to know that you're not in it alone, that all these other magnificent humans that you probably didn't know before, now you're a community, and we're part of that community, and we have a relationship, and it's really, really meaningful. And so thank you for all of that. And Cathy, thank you, and Sean. Yeah.
Step up!
Sometimes in life we go through challenging times, which all of us have at one time or another. And Penny certainly went through that challenging time. And just when you think you're going one direction, as one of my close friend mentees says, maybe God has a different plan for you in your life and is pulling things out of you didn't know were there. And Penny never thought of herself as a leader until she had to transform her life after breast cancer and said she wanted to really work in the foundation. So she made this foundation go since 1998. The first 4 years, as she would say, was a check writing foundation. But she's made it go with her energy. And she did suck up to leadership, not only locally and not only on the foundation, but nationally in forming the Great Wall Collaborative with 25 foundations across the United States to transform healthcare. And I remember the first time that she said this to me. We were driving out to Colorado from Denver out to Vail. And she said, I just want to transform the way medicine is taught and practiced. And I said, having worked for Metro, you know what you're up against? And she said, a little tear formed, she said, you don't believe in me, do you? I said, I do, and I'll do everything I can to support you. So thank you, congratulations. But you have really done it. One of my great weaknesses is being impatient, which I'm constantly reminded of by family and friends. But I have learned in this area, one has to be patient. That real societal change takes time, and you have to stay with it. But you also have to gather a group of people around you who are what I call fellow travelers. We're all independent, but we're all moving in the same direction. Sometimes our paths cross, and sometimes we're moving towards a common goal. And I see all of you as amazing fellow travelers towards the common good. So I am so grateful to you for coming here. Many of you come from a long distance, and I'm so grateful that you would come and be here with us and share, not to celebrate George Family Foundation, but really Penny and I saw this as a celebration of your work and giving you the support and, if you will, wind under your wings to go and keep going and to really make a difference and to stay with it, because no matter what happens in this world, and there will be difficult times, there will be hurricanes and tornadoes, but I think we can persevere that if we share common good and we can work together closely. So I hope the bonding of the last couple of days will continue and we can find, if you will, fellow travelers working on the same path that can follow towards these things, so we can each do our own work. So I want to thank all of the people in the room for the amazing work you're doing. And all I can say is please keep going, because the world needs you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, but Sean, but me, you ended it on thing.
I'm not able to describe the honor that it is to work for the George family and to do this work. So I'll just say dinner is served. Thank you. Dinner is served.